The freedom you think you have. You can choose your coffee, your phone, your Instagram filter, even the flavor of your toothpaste. But can you choose how much rent you pay? Can you choose how many hours you must work to survive? Can you choose whether your taxes fund bombs or hospitals? This is the paradox of our age. You feel free because you can choose, but none of the choices change who controls your life. The modern world has sold us a clever lie, that freedom equals options, that the more decisions you make each day, the freer you are, that the abundance of menus, brands, lifestyles, careers, identities means you're powerful. But power isn't in choosing the color of your cage. It's in questioning why you're in a cage at all. The subtle cage of modernity. Most people don't feel trapped because the trap doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a shopping mall. It looks like a phone screen full of apps. It looks like a dating profile with 100 swipes. But it's still a trap. Why? Because you didn't build the system you're choosing from. You're just selecting from the options someone else designed. And when you believe your freedom lies in selecting from rather than creating, you surrender real power in exchange for illusion. Let's make this painfully clear. You can choose between Uber or Lyft, but not whether you have to work 60 hours a week to afford a home. You can choose between Nike or Adidas, but not whether the global supply chain keeps you dependent on foreign labor and rising prices. You can choose to speak freely on platforms until your opinion crosses the invisible boundaries of their terms of service. What we have today is not freedom. It's curated autonomy, simulated sovereignty, an illusion so seamless it feels like reality. How did we get here? Once upon a time, freedom was defined by what you owned: land, time, skills, tools, decisions. But somewhere along the way, ownership was replaced with access, and access became a subscription, and subscriptions became choices, and choices became our new God. You no longer need to own anything. Just pay monthly. Just log in. Just accept the terms and conditions. We entered the age of the infinite menu and forgot that menus are written by chefs, not diners. The menu you're given is not the world. Every day you wake up to a set of preloaded options. What to wear, what to scroll, what to eat, what to believe. You think these choices are yours, but the reality is most of them are predictable responses to stimuli created by someone else. When you choose what to watch tonight on Netflix, are you really choosing? Or are you following the algorithm's suggestion, tweaked perfectly for your age, your past habits, your geography, your emotions? When you scroll through 40 pieces of content and stop on one, are you making a free choice? Or did someone in Silicon Valley spend $500 million engineering the exact emotional reaction that would make you stop? Your choices are not your own. They're designed, predicted, and most dangerously, marketed as liberation. You're not choosing. You're reacting. True freedom isn't in how many things you can choose between. It's in how many things you're allowed to question. But in today's world, questioning the structure behind your choices is often discouraged. Try telling someone you want to live without a 9-to-5 job. Try refusing to get a credit card. Try homeschooling your children. Try opting out of social media entirely. You'll see the reaction: confusion, resistance, even mockery. That's because society doesn't just offer options, it enforces norms. And your choices are only tolerated as long as they don't threaten the structure. Freedom today is less about living by your values and more about not rocking the boat. The most dangerous illusion. Here's the core of the trap. You're too busy choosing between distractions to ask who created the distractions. You're so flooded with choices, what to wear, what to post, what to eat, what to say, that you no longer notice how little say you have in the things that actually shape your life. How your food is grown, how your time is taxed, how your children are educated, how your data is used, how your country is run. They gave you 1,000 channels so you'd stop asking why the news is all the same. They gave you 1,000 brands so you'd stop asking why they're all owned by the same 5 corporations. They gave you infinite freedom in the digital world so you'd forget how little control you have in the physical one. This is the illusion of choice, and it's the perfect trap, because no one tries to escape a prison they can't see. So what is real freedom? Let's strip it down. Real freedom isn't in how many shirts you can afford. It's in whether you need to work 60 hours to afford a shirt. It's not in how many apps you have to message someone. It's in whether you feel whole enough to connect deeply without one. It's not in how many online courses you can take. It's in whether your mind is trained to think independently, beyond instruction. Real freedom isn't more decisions. It's more control over the things that matter. And that starts with seeing the illusion for what it is. A moment of pause. Ask yourself this, honestly. When was the last time you made a choice that wasn't reactive? When was the last time you paused and asked, do I even want this? Who benefits when you rush through life feeling like you're always in control because you can always choose? In truth, the most radical act in today's world might not be choosing something new. It might be refusing the menu entirely. What's coming next? In the next parts of this video, we'll uncover who built the systems behind your daily decisions, how algorithms replaced your instincts, why anxiety and overthinking are symptoms of too many hollow choices, how to reclaim real power in a world addicted to false freedom. But before we go there, let this settle. You are not free because you can choose. You are free when you can question what's been chosen for you. And right now, very few people do. The birth of the illusion, when capitalism learned to entertain. Let's go back, not to the invention of smartphones, not to the rise of streaming. Let's go all the way back to the exact moment when freedom began to be replaced by entertainment. That moment didn't come with force. It came with applause, with shiny packaging, with slogans that said, "Have it your way," and with smiles that told you you were in control. But behind that smile was a shift so subtle, so clever, that we didn't notice until it was too late. That shift was this: capitalism stopped selling products and started selling identities. Before the illusion, simplicity had power. Before the consumer revolution, life was brutal but clear. Your choices were few, but they were yours. You grew your own food. You built your own home. You owned your own time, however limited it was. There was hardship, yes, but within that hardship, there was something precious: the ability to decide how to live with what you had. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and with it, a new promise: abundance. More clothes, more food, more entertainment, more comfort, more options. At first, it seemed like liberation, and for a time, it was. People had access to things that once only kings could afford. But what started as expansion quickly morphed into excess, and from excess came the need for manipulation. Too much supply, not enough desire. Here's the secret. Once factories could produce faster than people could consume, a new problem emerged. What happens when you can make more than people want? Answer: you don't increase demand, you create it. You manufacture desire. You no longer wait for people to need something. You convince them they're incomplete without it. Enter advertising. Not the old-fashioned kind that said, "Here's what this does," but the new kind, the kind that said, "This is who you'll be if you choose this." The evolution of advertising from function to fantasy. The earliest ads focused on features. This soap removes stains. This car gets better mileage. This dress is durable. But those didn't drive massive profits, so the narrative changed. Instead of facts, ads started selling feelings, status, confidence, beauty, belonging, sex appeal, freedom. Suddenly, it wasn't about what the product did, it was about what it meant. You weren't buying shoes, you were buying self-worth. You weren't buying a car, you were buying masculinity. You weren't buying perfume, you were buying desirability. This shift from utility to identity changed everything. Because now your identity was something to be chosen, to be curated, to be purchased, to be updated, just like an app. Choice became the product. Capitalism learned something crucial. You don't need to sell one perfect product. You just need to sell 1,000 options so each person can find their version of perfection. From then on, choice itself became the value. Not quality, not longevity, not truth. Just choice. Why sell one soap when you can sell 30 variations? Why offer one brand of milk when you can offer almond, oat, soy, lactose-free, vanilla-infused organic micro-batch hemp? Why? Because the more options you offer, the more people feel seen, the more they feel unique, the more they believe, this brand understands me. But here's the trick. None of those choices matter, because they're all coming from the same factory, owned by the same company, driven by the same profit motives. You feel free, but you're picking your flavor of the same cage. Entertainment as a tool of control. As choices multiplied, another realization came. People don't rebel when they're entertained. Give them sports, give them movies, give them 24/7 news and 1,000 channels. Give them TikTok and Netflix and Instagram and Disney+. Drown them in content. Bury their attention under dopamine loops. Make distraction constant and choice endless. And you'll never have to explain the rules of the game, because no one will be paying attention long enough to notice. This was not a conspiracy. This was evolutionary psychology used as business strategy. Because a distracted mind is a docile mind, and a constantly entertained public is the easiest to govern. Freedom rebranded. Now here's the real magic trick. They didn't take your freedom away. They rebranded it. They replaced freedom with expression. They replaced ownership with access. They replaced critical thought with personalization. They replaced rebellion with style. They replaced power with content. And you applauded, because now you could be yourself, even if you weren't quite sure who that was. You could express your political views, just not where it matters. You could protest so long as you stayed within the app. You could rage so long as your rage fed the algorithm. The hidden cost of endless choice. You think you're winning because you have 12 versions of everything, but what you don't see is what you've lost. Depth, simplicity, time, clarity, meaning. When every day is a jungle of micro-decisions, you become too tired to make the big ones. You spend 20 minutes choosing a playlist, but haven't spent 2 minutes asking if you're fulfilled. You customize your home screen, but have no control over your working hours. You binge-watch stories written by others because you're too burned out to write your own. This is the hidden cost of the illusion. It drains your energy in the name of agency until there's none left to question who's pulling the strings. We stopped building, we started choosing. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is this: we stopped being creators and we became consumers. We used to make our own food, music, clothing, homes. Now we choose them from a list, on a screen, from a warehouse we've never seen. We became children again, waiting for the adults to hand us options, forgetting that true adulthood is not picking what's on the shelf, it's building the shelf yourself. Closing this chapter. So what have we learned? That the illusion of choice was not born in tyranny, but in entertainment, in convenience, in the subtle seduction of identity as a service. We learned that capitalism doesn't need to control your life if it can just convince you that choosing between distractions is the same as living freely. In the next part, we'll uncover who benefits most from this illusion and how your most critical systems, education, finance, governance, remain untouched by your so-called freedom. But remember this: choice without agency is noise, and noise is the perfect hiding place for control. Who built the menu? You sit down at a restaurant. A leather-bound menu lands on the table. It's full of dishes, options, descriptions, prices. You feel in control. But who decided what's on the menu? Who chose what you could choose? Because make no mistake, every choice you make is shaped by a list you didn't write. We've romanticized the idea of free will in the modern world, but we rarely ask the most important question of all: who designed the list of options in the first place? This part isn't about conspiracy theories. It's about systems, real, measurable, structural forces that determine what's available to you before you even begin to choose. Because freedom is not about having options. It's about having the ability to create, modify, or reject the options themselves. And right now, you can't. The architects of choice. Let's name them: governments, corporations, algorithms, and culture. Each one plays a role in constructing the reality you think you're navigating freely. Each one limits what you can see, want, and access without you realizing it. Let's break it down. 1. Governments, the illusion of political choice. You get to vote every 4 years between 2 or 3 candidates. But the platforms, the policies, the funding, the rules of the game, already written, already owned, already locked in by interests you'll never meet. Voting gives the illusion of choice, but behind it lies a bureaucracy and legal structure so dense, so entrenched, that hardly matters who is elected, only what machine they're now a part of. You can choose the face of the system, but not the system itself. That's not choice, that's marketing. 2. Corporations, the designers of desire. You walk into a supermarket and see 150 brands of cereal. But guess what? They're all owned by a handful of companies. You open your phone and scroll through dozens of different apps, streaming platforms, or fashion labels. But peel back the layers and you'll find that L'Oreal owns both the luxury and drugstore beauty lines. Nestlé owns both your bottled water and your baby formula. Procter & Gamble owns both the detergent you buy and the ads that convinced you to buy it. Corporations don't care what you choose, because either way, you're choosing them. So they flood the shelf with options to keep you busy, to keep you feeling free, to keep you distracted from asking, why do I even need all this? 3. Algorithms, the invisible hands that guide you. Now let's talk digital. You think you're choosing your news, your content, your entertainment, your friends. But behind every click, every scroll, every autoplay, there's an algorithm nudging you. It studies your behavior, predicts your desires, shapes your beliefs, and curates your entire experience online. You're not exploring the world. You're walking through a tunnel made just for you. A tunnel designed to keep you engaged, not awakened. Optimized for retention, not revelation. You didn't choose what to watch. You reacted to what was shown. And the algorithm wins again. 4. Culture is the oldest menu of all. Before corporations, before tech, there was culture. Culture tells you what is beautiful, what is normal, what is worthy, what is appropriate to dream. It writes the rules of belonging. It defines success before you do. It tells you what kind of life is acceptable to want. You didn't choose to value money over peace, or fame over privacy, or speed over depth. You inherited those values, wrapped in media, family, schooling, tradition, and unless you deliberately question them, you are living by a script you didn't write. Culture is the most invisible menu of all because it lives in your mind. And once it's there, you stop questioning the boundaries of what's possible. But I feel free, so what's the problem? That's the genius of the illusion. You feel free because the walls are painted with options. You don't see the bars, just the endless flavors of toothpaste. You're choosing, constantly, but never at the level that threatens the system. You don't choose whether your job exists or not, whether you need a mortgage to have a home, whether your data gets harvested, whether wars are funded in your name, whether your children's minds are shaped by screens. You choose where to sit on the roller coaster, but you don't get to choose where it's going. Designed for compliance. Let's be brutally honest. The systems behind your choices are not neutral. They are engineered to achieve outcomes, and those outcomes serve someone, just not you. Governments design systems to maintain order, not freedom. Corporations design systems to extract value, not empower lives. Algorithms are designed to keep you addicted, not awakened. Culture is designed to preserve tradition, not promote transformation. When all four work together, you live in a reality that feels chosen but is actually choreographed. And here's the kicker. You defend the illusion because it's all you've ever known. Why you rarely notice? Because the system rewards you for staying in the menu, for choosing from it, for optimizing your choice, for promoting it to others. You feel clever when you get a good deal. You feel smart when you pick a unique style. You feel powerful when you curate your brand. But all you've really done is rearrange the same furniture, in the same room, in the same house, on the same street. The real enemy isn't control, it's comfort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The greatest prison is the one you decorate yourself. Because once you decorate it, you don't want to leave. Once you feel proud of your choices, you stop questioning who gave them to you. Once you get comfortable, you stop looking for the door. And comfort is the perfect form of control because it doesn't need to force you. It just needs to keep you entertained. Conclusion. Freedom starts with the menu. If you want real freedom, stop asking which option is best. Start asking, why are these the only options? Who built this menu? What's missing from it and why? Because that's the moment the illusion begins to crack. And you start to see the true power isn't in choosing the best dish, it's in learning to cook your own. The systems you can't escape, because you can't choose them. You can choose your breakfast, your outfit, even your personal brand on social media. But can you choose whether or not you go to school? Can you choose how taxes are spent? Can you choose whether to participate in the financial system? No, because there are some systems that don't ask for your permission. They simply exist and expect your compliance. This is the part most people never realize. The most powerful forces in your life aren't the ones you choose. They're the ones you're born into. Let's explore 4 of them, each massive, inescapable, and mostly immune to your decisions. Education, finance, employment, governance. Each of these systems claims to offer freedom, but when you zoom out, you see they offer one thing: structure that benefits themselves, not necessarily you. 1. Education. One system, millions of minds. You're born, then you're sent to school. 12 years, sometimes 20. What do you learn? To obey, to memorize, to regurgitate, to compete, to wait for permission, to raise your hand before speaking, to measure your worth by grades and rankings. Sure, you can choose electives, you can choose which college, you can even choose your major, but you can't choose the entire shape of the system. You don't get to ask, why is curiosity graded? Why is failure punished? Why is creativity sidelined for conformity? You don't get to opt out of the model that molds minds for obedience. You just get to choose which version of obedience you prefer. And that's not education. That's intellectual domestication. 2. Finance, the game you can't opt out of. You didn't choose to be born into a world that runs on money, but here you are. And from your first breath, the financial system begins shaping your life. You need money to eat, to live, to be safe, to have access to opportunity. But here's the kicker. You can choose which bank. You can't choose the game. You can choose debit or credit, but you can't choose whether fiat currency loses value. You can choose investments, but you can't choose whether inflation steals your savings. You can choose a loan, but you can't choose whether debt is the only way forward. The rules are already written by central banks, by governments, by institutions who profit whether you win or lose. They sell you financial literacy, but never give you power over the rules themselves. And that's by design, because the moment people understand how the money game is rigged, they might stop playing it, or worse, they might rewrite it. 3. Work, the illusion of career freedom. You were told you could be anything: doctor, artist, engineer, entrepreneur. But no one told you the fine print, that no matter what you choose, you'll still be trading time for money, living under artificial deadlines, performing for metrics, and always under pressure to produce. You can choose your job, but not whether you need one to survive. You can choose your company, but not the economic model that turns labor into output, into profit for someone else. Work is packaged as empowerment, but the system it lives in is survival-based. If you stop, the bills don't. If you burn out, you're replaced. If you question the system, you're labeled ungrateful. And even entrepreneurship, the supposed path to freedom, often becomes another cage, one with more hours, more debt, more illusion. Freedom at work? More like freedom to perform or perish. 4. Governance, the menu you can't rewrite. You can vote, you can protest, you can tweet, but can you rewrite the laws? Can you change how justice is applied? Can you stop wars funded by your taxes? Governance is perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all, because it gives you just enough input to feel involved, but not enough to ever disrupt the machine. You can pick the manager, but not the owners. You can vote for the party, but not the donors behind them. You can voice your concern, but not silence the lobbyists who rewrite your laws in back rooms. This isn't democracy, it's decision theater, and you're the audience, clapping for a system that was scripted long before you entered the room. What happens when you try to escape? Here's the haunting truth. When you try to opt out of these systems, you're punished. Homeschool your kids? Expect scrutiny. Live off-grid? Prepare for legal battles. Deny the banking system? You'll be labeled suspicious. Refuse employment in protest? You'll starve or be ridiculed for laziness. That's the final proof. If a system were truly optional, you'd be allowed to leave in peace. But these systems don't want peace. They want participation, because participation is what sustains them. You don't need to love the system. You just need to keep showing up, keep paying, keep scrolling, keep obeying. And if you don't, they'll pressure, shame, or force you back in line. But aren't these systems necessary? Yes, and that's what makes them dangerous, because the best control systems are the ones we believe we need. They're not obviously evil. They're functional. They serve a purpose. They offer comfort, consistency, and the illusion of order. And so we tolerate them, even defend them, even attack those who question them. This is how deep the programming goes. You can't change the game if you're too afraid to leave the field. Freedom without permission. So what's the alternative? No, it's not total anarchy. It's not living in a cave or rejecting every structure. It's something more radical and more dangerous to the system. It's asking questions they never taught you to ask. What would a self-directed education look like? What if value wasn't tied to labor? What if housing wasn't a commodity? What if governance was decentralized and transparent? What if money itself wasn't the centerpiece of life? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary, because they reveal the invisible chains we stopped noticing long ago. Your choice is not the final step, it's the first. Choosing your path in life is noble, but choosing between pre-approved paths is not freedom. It's compliance with flair. Real freedom is this: the ability to rewrite the map, to redraw the borders, to question the terrain, and to walk where no path has yet been cleared. But to do that, you must first admit the path you're on was not chosen freely. It was handed to you, marketed to you, mandatory. And until you see that, you'll keep mistaking permission for power. The anxiety of too many options. You walk into a supermarket to buy toothpaste. 15 minutes later, you leave with 3 different kinds and a splitting headache. Welcome to the modern world, where everything is possible and nothing feels right, where choice was supposed to liberate us, but instead paralyzes us. You'd think more options would bring more happiness, more control, more satisfaction. But instead, what we got was more second-guessing, more regret, more dissatisfaction, more fear of missing out, more anxiety. This is the hidden cost of the illusion. Too many choices don't free the mind, they fracture it. The paradox of choice. In 2004, psychologist Barry Schwartz published a landmark book called The Paradox of Choice. His core thesis? Too much choice makes us miserable. Why? Because when every option is available, you alone are responsible for the outcome. If you choose wrong, there's no one to blame. Not society, not fate, not circumstance, just you. And in a world that constantly tells you to live your best life, failure feels not just disappointing, but shameful. You had so many options. How could you have chosen the wrong one? The mental burden of decision fatigue. Every day, the average adult makes over 35,000 decisions. What to wear, what to eat, what to post, who to follow, which emoji to use, which opinion to express or suppress. Your brain was not built for this, and over time, it breaks down. Psychologists call it decision fatigue, the gradual erosion of mental clarity as choices accumulate. It's why you feel tired before the day even starts. It's why small things feel overwhelming. It's why you scroll endlessly instead of acting decisively. Because your mind isn't free. It's exhausted from choosing in a system where no choice really satisfies. Freedom feels heavy when you're always choosing. We were told that freedom meant infinite possibility, but no one warned us. Possibility without purpose leads to panic. You're told you can be anything, go anywhere, build any life, love anyone, start over at any time. But with no clear direction, this freedom becomes a psychological burden. Instead of inspiring action, it induces doubt. What if I pick the wrong path? What if I miss out on something better? What if everyone else is making smarter choices? You don't live your life. You second-guess it, endlessly. And that's not freedom. That's paralysis. Maximizers versus satisficers. Research shows there are 2 types of decision makers. Maximizers, people who try to make the best possible choice. Satisficers, people who make a good enough choice and move on. Guess which group is more anxious, more regretful, and more likely to be unhappy with their decisions? Maximizers. Why? Because when you're trying to pick the perfect option in an endless sea of possibilities, you're doomed to disappointment. No matter what you choose, there's always the fear that something better was out there. In other words, the more you aim for perfection, the more you fear imperfection. And in a world engineered to give you infinite choice, perfection is always just one click away. Until it isn't. The rise of post-choice regret. Modern life has created a new psychological illness, post-choice regret. Not because the choice was terrible, but because you can't stop thinking about all the other options you didn't pick. You book a vacation, then see a better deal the next day. You choose a partner, then Instagram shows you thousands of better ones. You take a job, then hear of someone earning more for less. The more connected we are, the more choices we see. And the more choices we see, the more we doubt the one we made. It's a vicious loop. And worst of all, it's profitable. Because self-doubt drives consumption, and every regret is a new marketing opportunity. Choice addiction. You can't stop tapping. The endless scroll, the infinite catalog, the dating app with no bottom. These aren't just features, they're psychological traps. Each new choice gives your brain a dopamine hit, a small thrill, a momentary sense of control. But it doesn't last, because the real goal isn't to choose, it's to keep choosing. You don't scroll to find the answer, you scroll to escape the burden of choosing at all. And companies know this. They exploit it. That's why most platforms don't care what you pick, just that you stay engaged, confused, indecisive, because a restless mind is a profitable mind. The collapse of commitment. When every choice is reversible, nothing feels permanent. And when nothing is permanent, you stop investing deeply in anything. Not in relationships, not in goals, not in beliefs, not in yourself. You keep one foot out the door, one eye on the next possibility, one finger ready to swipe. This is the dark side of optionality. The more options you have, the less likely you are to commit to any of them. And without commitment, there is no growth, no intimacy, no mastery, no peace. Just movement, just noise, just more. When simplicity becomes rebellion. We used to think minimalism was a lifestyle trend. Now it's starting to look like a survival strategy. Because in a world drowning in options, simplicity is power. Choosing less is a way to reclaim focus. Saying no is an act of resistance. Limiting choices is how you restore peace. The truly free person today isn't the one who can choose anything. It's the one who can say, I don't need that. I've already decided. I don't want more, I want meaning. I don't chase, I choose once and live it fully. That kind of clarity is rare because clarity requires boundaries, and the illusion of choice hates boundaries. It wants you wandering, consuming, overthinking forever. Conclusion: you were never meant to choose this much. Let's end with this. Your mind wasn't made to choose between 4,000 breakfast cereals, or 2,000 dating profiles, or 17 streaming services. It was built to choose what matters and then to build a life around it. But the modern world doesn't want you choosing once. It wants you choosing forever. Because a person who's always choosing is a person who's never satisfied. And a person who's never satisfied is a customer for life. Manufactured desires. You're choosing what they want you to want. You say, I want this. I've always dreamed of that. This is who I am. But pause. Look deeper. Strip away the layers. Where did that want come from? Was it born from experience? From silence? From soul? Or was it planted by repetition, by advertising, by invisible hands that study your every move? In a world of algorithms and marketing psychology, you're not choosing your desires, you're being taught them. This is the most subtle and most dangerous illusion of all, that your wants are yours. Because once they've programmed what you want, they don't need to control your choices. You'll voluntarily follow the path they built for you. The engineered self. Let's be honest. Most of what you think you desire isn't original. It's not the product of contemplation. It's the product of exposure. You didn't wake up craving a new phone, or a curated skincare routine, or a minimalist Scandinavian apartment with a diffuser in the corner. You saw it. You were shown it, over and over, until your brain whispered, "This is what success looks like. This is what being you feels like." And once that connection is made between identity and product, desire becomes inevitable, natural, internalized, even though it was manufactured from the outside. The science of seduction. You're not the consumer. You're the target. From the moment you go online, a billion-dollar industry wakes up to analyze you. Every click, every pause, every scroll. Your insecurities are cataloged. Your habits are logged. Your fears are mapped. Your aspirations are predicted. And then, you're fed exactly what will activate your hunger. Not for food, but for validation, for status, for beauty, for belonging, for control. Marketing doesn't sell you things. It sells you a sense of being enough. That's the product. And once you need it, they'll sell it to you in 10,000 forms. The rise of artificial needs. You were not born needing 3 skincare serums, a new phone every year, a personal brand, an aesthetic, techwear, a $7 coffee made by a barista with a mustache and tattoos. You were taught to want those things through influencers, through ads, through subtle messaging that tells you what you have is not enough, who you are is not enough. But if you get this, you will be. And the moment you believe that, they own you. Because your identity becomes a to-do list, and your self-worth becomes a shopping cart. Desire as data. In the old world, marketers made ads and hoped they worked. In the new world, they use your data to create desire on demand. They know when you're vulnerable. They know when you're bored. They know when you're comparing yourself. They know what your friends like. They know what you Google at 2 a.m. So they don't just guess what you might want. They decide what you'll want next. And once they've decided, they surround you, flood you, nudge you, until the line between desire and manipulation disappears. You're not unique. You're profiled. You like minimalism? You and 3 million others. You want to travel for meaning? So do 80% of Instagram users aged 18 to 34. You want to escape the 9 to 5? There's a $100 billion hustle culture industry waiting for you. You think you're expressing your individuality, but you're actually following a template, one that was A/B tested, optimized, color-coded, and sold as authentic. That's the brilliance of manufactured desire. It makes you feel like you chose, when really you complied. Influencers, the new missionaries of want. Once upon a time, missionaries brought religion. Now they bring lifestyle. They don't sell products. They sell selves, versions of life, vignettes of perfection. And you follow them, not because they demand it, but because they live the life you secretly wish was yours. You don't want the product. You want their skin, their confidence, their calm, their couple goals, their "I woke up like this" energy. The product is just the bridge. The illusion of spontaneous choice. Have you ever suddenly wanted something you'd never thought about before? A color, a destination, a type of chair, a haircut, a phrase, and you felt like it just came to you? It didn't. It was planted. You were exposed to it multiple times, in subtle ways, until your brain accepted it as familiar, then desirable, then necessary. This is called priming, and it works. You think it's spontaneous, but it's engineered memory, artificial nostalgia, false identity. And in this world, even your spontaneity is scripted. So what do you really want? Here's the haunting part. Most people never find out because they never sit long enough in silence to ask. They are too busy wanting, too busy reacting, too busy comparing. True desire takes time. It requires solitude. It requires honesty, and it cannot be manufactured. But that kind of desire doesn't feed economies, so it's suppressed, hidden under layers of noise, buried beneath the daily barrage of what you should want. And over time, your inner compass rusts, and you become a mirror reflecting everyone but yourself. Escaping manufactured want. How do you break free? You pause. You disconnect. You observe before you absorb. You start asking, do I actually want this, or do I want to be seen with this? Who benefits from me wanting this? Would I still want it if no one could see me have it? Is this satisfying, or just soothing a void someone else convinced me I had? These questions are weapons because they cut through illusion, and they hurt because they reveal how much of your life has been borrowed. But once you ask them, you begin to see clearly. And clarity is dangerous to every system that profits from your confusion. You were not born to be a consumer. You were born to create, to experience, to love, to grow, to wonder. But they made you believe that your worth was tied to what you acquire, that your power was in what you wear, drive, click, or follow. They made you hungry for yourself and sold you a version of you to consume. But now you see, and the illusion begins to crack. Identity confusion. When you lose yourself in what you choose. You say, this is me, this is my style, this is what I believe. But beneath that certainty, something trembles. Because if you strip away the brands, the playlists, the aesthetics, the hashtags, what's left? Do you know who you are? Or have you become the sum of your selections? In a world obsessed with personalization, it's easy to forget. When you're always choosing, you're rarely discovering. And slowly, silently, the self becomes a simulation. Not something you are, but something you curate. The self as a project. Modern culture doesn't teach you to be yourself. It teaches you to build yourself, like a digital avatar. Assemble the traits, pick the filters, update your profile, perform. Your identity becomes a project, an aesthetic, a series of choices you make to craft an impression. But here's the danger. When yourself becomes a product, its value depends on its reception. You're not living, you're managing perception. You're not growing, you're editing. You're not feeling, you're branding. And over time, this erodes something vital, the rooted self. The infinite mirror maze. When you look in the mirror today, it doesn't just reflect you. It reflects your followers, your digital likes, the trends you follow, the ads you've seen, the algorithm's idea of you, the person you think others want you to be. It's not a mirror, it's a maze, and you're lost inside it. In this maze, identity isn't discovered, it's performed, and the performance is exhausting. Because every choice you make is a signal, and every signal is a test. Do I belong? Am I desirable? Am I relevant? Do I still matter? When identity becomes a constant audition, you stop asking who you are and start wondering who you need to appear to be. The collapse of inner knowing. When was the last time you made a choice without first wondering, how will this look? What will people think? Is this on brand? You used to know what felt right. Now you check the feed. You used to feel something deeply. Now you wonder if it's trending. This isn't superficial, it's existential. Because the more you outsource your sense of self, the more fragile it becomes. You wake up every day asking the world to remind you who you are. And when the world doesn't respond, you unravel. When everything is identity, nothing is real. We live in an age of labels: introvert or extrovert, empath or alpha, hustler or minimalist, queer, straight, fluid, right, left, center, vegan, carnivore, paleo, keto, spiritual, atheist, agnostic, cosmic. These labels promise clarity, belonging, a sense of place, but over time, they become cages. Because once you choose one, you're expected to perform it, defend it, live by its rules. And if you change, you're seen as fake, inconsistent, confused. The irony of identity today is that you must find yourself and then stay frozen. But real identity is fluid, alive, messy, contradictory. And our obsession with defining ourselves through choice kills that freedom. The marketplace of selves. Today, you don't just live your identity, you market it. You pick a niche, you build a brand, you show up consistently. Your face becomes content, your feelings become engagement, your life becomes proof of concept. And slowly you lose the ability to sit with yourself without wondering, is this shareable? Should I post this? What would my followers think? You become two people, the one who feels, the one who performs, and they grow further apart every day. The empty core beneath the aesthetic. You walk into a coffee shop, it's perfectly curated. Plants, wood, vinyls, lighting, logo, ambiance. You sit down, open your phone, swipe, scroll, smile. Everything is beautiful, but something feels hollow. That's the modern soul, surrounded by options, buried in visuals, but unsure of what's real. You've built the perfect version of yourself, but inside you're asking, do I actually believe what I say? Do I even like this music? Would I still be this person if no one was watching? And that question haunts you. Because if the answer is no, who are you when the camera is off? Loneliness in the age of identity. We've never been more expressed, but we've also never been more alone. Because when everyone is performing, no one is connecting. And when every identity is a brand, intimacy becomes dangerous. You don't show your doubts. You don't risk being wrong. You don't break character. Because vulnerability doesn't get likes, and real connection requires dropping the mask. But you've worn it so long, you're not sure who's underneath anymore. Reclaiming the unbranded self. So how do you find yourself again? You begin by subtracting. Subtract the noise. Subtract the branding. Subtract the audience. Subtract the algorithm. Subtract the obligation to be consistent. You sit with your contradictions. You let yourself change. You give yourself permission to be inconsistent, uncertain, unfinished. Because real identity is not a static state. It's a process. And that process can't be bought, can't be downloaded, can't be performed. It must be lived. From choosing to listening. The next time you feel the urge to choose, pause. Ask instead, what part of me is choosing this? Am I trying to impress or express? Am I running toward something or away from myself? When you stop chasing identities to wear, you start hearing the quiet voice beneath them, the one that was always there, before the noise, before the brand, before the illusion. That voice doesn't scream, it doesn't market, but it's yours, and it's waiting. The death of deep thinking, replaced by swipe culture. Think back. When was the last time you sat in silence? No music, no screen, no scrolling. Just thoughts. Can't remember? You're not alone. Because in a world addicted to movement, stillness is rare. And in a world obsessed with choice, contemplation is inconvenient. We've been trained to swipe, tap, scroll, but not to sit, stay, and think. This is the silent epidemic of our time, the collapse of deep thinking. Not because people became less intelligent, but because the world became too loud to think inside. Thinking requires friction. Real thinking is not convenient. It's uncomfortable. It takes time. It resists dopamine. It forces you to sit with uncertainty, to tolerate boredom, to stretch into complexity. But modern systems hate friction, so they design everything to feel effortless. One swipe dating, one click shopping, 1 second reels, one tap opinions. You don't process, you react. You don't reason, you repeat. You don't investigate, you scroll. And over time, your ability to think deeply begins to wither. From reader to skimmer to scroller. We used to read books, then we read articles, then headlines, then captions, then tweets, then memes, then comments, then emojis. Each step was sold as efficiency, but it wasn't. It was fragmentation. Your attention span didn't just shrink, it was shattered. And with it, your capacity to focus, to ponder, to challenge, to explore. You became a consumer of fragments and lost the context that makes real thought possible. When the medium becomes the mind. Marshall McLuhan once said, "The medium is the message." In today's world, the medium is also the mind. When you consume content that is fast, addictive, bite-sized, shallow, emotionally manipulative, your mind becomes the same. You start to think in tweets, feel in filters, decide in seconds, speak in slogans, and live in highlight reels. What's lost? Nuance, context, patience, empathy, depth. These things don't survive in the feed, so eventually they don't survive in you. The rise of reactive thinking. In swipe culture, your brain becomes a reflex machine. You don't explore, you agree or disagree. You don't question, you react. You don't build ideas, you rate them. You don't listen, you prepare a reply. Every moment becomes a binary. Funny or cringe, smart or stupid, left or right, real or fake. But life isn't binary. Truth isn't binary. You aren't binary. Yet the system flattens you into predictability because nuance doesn't convert. Contemplation can't compete with dopamine. Here's the real problem. Deep thinking is boring at first, and boredom is the enemy of the attention economy. No app makes money while you stare at the wall. No algorithm thrives when you pause to consider both sides. No feed goes viral because you're reading a philosophy book. So everything is designed to interrupt, to stimulate, to provoke, to addict. And deep thinking? It gets crowded out, not with evil, but with entertainment. That's how the death of thought happens, not by suppression, but by saturation. The infantilization of the adult mind. Have you noticed how the modern world treats adults like children? Bright colors, short sentences, instant feedback, gamified everything. Emotional content over rational content. It's not an accident, because shallow minds are easier to influence, easier to monetize, easier to polarize. A thinking mind asks, is this true? A swiping mind asks, does this feel good? And in that shift, truth becomes irrelevant. What matters is velocity, emotion, virality. And you, once a thinker, become a reactor. Why deep thinkers feel like outsiders. If you've ever felt disconnected, alienated, too serious, too intense, too much in your head, that's not a flaw. That's a symptom of sanity in a world gone surface deep. Deep thinkers are rare now because the world makes it difficult to become one, not by banning thought, but by overwhelming it. And those who still think deeply often feel like strangers because they move slower, question more, want less, and see through the noise. What happens when thinking dies? When deep thought disappears, several things collapse with it. Democracy becomes mob rule. Spirituality becomes self-help. Learning becomes memorization. Relationships become transactions. Freedom becomes branding. Truth becomes opinion. Self becomes signal. This is not hypothetical, it's happening. And if it continues, we'll raise generations who know how to swipe, but not how to think, who know how to choose, but not how to discern, who know how to react, but not how to reflect. And without reflection, there is no progress, only repetition. Rebuilding the mind in an age of noise. So how do we reclaim our capacity for depth? It starts with subtraction. Turn off the feed. Make space for boredom. Read slowly. Write to clarify. Sit with discomfort. Resist the urge to reply instantly. Unlearn the addiction to being updated. Because thought requires space. And space is the rarest commodity in the modern world, but it's also the most powerful. Because from space comes clarity, insight, breakthroughs, originality, self-knowledge. And these are the things no system can give you. You must protect them with discipline and silence. Conclusion: think before you swipe. The next time you reach for your phone, ask, am I thinking or avoiding thought? Am I choosing or reacting? Is this noise or nourishment? Because your attention is not just a currency, it's the doorway to your mind. And your mind, when truly yours, can't be bought, branded, or swayed. But first, you must reclaim it. One pause at a time, one breath at a time, one thought at a time. Time, the only thing you can't choose. You can choose your shoes. You can choose your screen. You can choose your vacation, your breakfast, your career path. But you can't choose your time. Not how much you get, not how fast it passes, not how it runs out. Time is the one resource everyone has equally until they trade it away. And in a world drowning in endless options, this is the cruelest paradox. You can choose everything except the thing that matters most. You don't get more hours for choosing better. You don't pause the clock when you overthink. You don't rewind when you regret. You can only spend it, and once spent, it's gone. The great unseen cost. We've been trained to measure cost in money, but money regenerates. Time does not. Buy the wrong item? Return it. Lose money in a bad investment? You can earn more. Choose the wrong career? You can start over. But time? Gone. Irretrievable. Non-refundable. And yet, we trade it away like it's infinite. We scroll for hours. We binge for days. We wait. We delay. We drift. Because the world has taught us that distraction is harmless. But it isn't. Every unconscious choice is a conscious theft of your life. When time is not yours. Let's be honest. Most people are not spending their time. They're renting it out. To jobs they hate, to systems they never questioned, to routines that no longer serve them. You work 40 to 60 hours a week, sleep another 50, commute, shop, scroll, numb. And when it's all added up, how much of your time is actually yours? Time is framed as freedom, but in reality, it's the first thing we surrender to the machine. We sell it hour by hour for a wage. We spend it moment by moment for a sense of approval. We waste it tap by tap for a hit of dopamine. Not because we don't care, but because no one taught us how valuable it really is. False choices, real time lost. Here's the brutal truth. The system keeps you busy with decisions that don't matter, so you don't notice the time you're losing on what does. You spend 20 minutes choosing a shirt, but not 5 minutes questioning your lifestyle. You spend 2 hours curating an Instagram post, but not 30 seconds reflecting on your mortality. You spend a decade building a life, then realize it wasn't yours, because you chose, but you didn't choose with time in mind. That's the trick. Modern life is not about making the best use of time. It's about forgetting that time is running out. The inversion of urgency. Think about what feels urgent today. A message, a comment, a like, a reply, a trend, a sale, a notification. These things scream for attention, but none of them will matter a week from now. Now think about what feels optional. Reflection, presence, connection, purpose, stillness, rest, saying no. These things whisper, but they determine everything. We've inverted the urgency of life. The trivial feels vital. The essential feels like a luxury. And time bleeds away quietly until one day you wake up and say, "Where did it all go?" The myth of someday. The illusion of choice feeds another lie. You can always do it later. Later I'll start that project. Later I'll reconnect with them. Later I'll take that trip. Later I'll slow down. Later I'll live. But here's the truth. Later is not guaranteed. Later is not loyal. Later is how dreams die in waiting rooms. You don't run out of dreams, you run out of time. And the worst regret isn't failure, it's postponement. Who owns your clock? Ask yourself, who controls how I spend my time? Is it your employer? Your phone? Your habits? Your fears? Your need to please? Your inability to say no? If you're not choosing consciously, someone or something is choosing for you. And they don't care if you waste your life. Because systems don't care. Apps don't care. The feed doesn't care. Only you can. Redefining wealth. Time first. We've been taught that wealth is money, but true wealth is control over time. To wake up without an alarm, to work when you choose, to say no without fear, to rest without guilt, to give time to those you love, to pursue what matters even if it pays nothing. That's real freedom. Not the ability to choose between 500 brands, but the ability to choose how you spend the only life you'll ever have. And yet, this kind of wealth is discouraged. Why? Because people with time think, question, resist, create. And those are the people the system fears most. You don't need more time, you need fewer traps. You keep saying, I don't have time, but the truth is, you don't have clarity. Time is not hiding. It's being stolen by tasks that don't serve you, by people who don't see you, by platforms that distract you, by pressure that manipulates you. So stop asking, how can I manage my time better? Ask, what am I managing it for? Who benefits from how I spend it? What would I do if no one was watching? These questions cut deep, but they're the only way to stop the clock from owning you. Conclusion: time is the only real choice. In a world of infinite options, time is the one thing that will always run out. You don't control how much you get. You only control how consciously you spend it. And when you begin to see time not as something to fill, but as something to honor, you wake up. You realize you weren't born to browse, you were born to build. You weren't born to optimize, you were born to live. And every second you remember that is a second you take your life back. The illusion of individuality. Everyone choosing the same. You wear different clothes. You have your own taste in music. You choose your favorite foods, hobbies, and online communities. You tell yourself, I'm different. I'm me. I don't follow the crowd. But look around. Everyone is saying the same thing. Everyone is expressing their uniqueness in strangely identical ways. Same shoes, same aesthetic, same quotes, same camera angles, same ambitions dressed in different fonts. In a world that celebrates individuality, most people have become copies of a copy. How? Because the system realized something brilliant. The easiest way to control people isn't to force them to conform. It's to make them believe they're unique while funneling them into the same patterns. You do you, designed by someone else. Today's mantra is, be yourself. But who defines what yourself is? You scroll for hours. You absorb voices, styles, identities. You find what speaks to you and you imitate it. Slightly, subtly, consistently. Until one day, your idea of me was written by someone else. Not maliciously, just systematically. The brands you wear were designed to signal uniqueness to millions. The opinions you hold were shaped by curated feeds. The personality traits you claim were tested by marketers, then sold back to you. You are choosing, but the ingredients of your uniqueness, mass-produced. The manufactured rebellion. The system saw you hated conformity, so it gave you curated rebellion. Grunge, indie, punk, minimalist, softcore, vaporwave, spiritual but not religious, anti-capitalist but wearing Nike, off-grid but monetizing on Instagram, authentic but algorithmically optimized. Your rebellion was forecasted. Your resistance was monetized. Even your counterculture has a uniform, because the illusion of rebellion still sells products, and the illusion of individuality still feeds the machine. You are allowed to be anything as long as it fits within a pre-approved template. The echo chamber of uniqueness. Everyone is a brand now, and every brand is trying to be original. But the platforms that host them, they reward sameness. Similar rhythms, similar tones, similar visuals, similar controversies, similar hooks, similar emotions. Because sameness is predictable, and predictability is profitable. So even when you try to stand out, you're standing out by copying the most viral version of standing out. That's not originality. That's refined mimicry. Algorithms don't reward originality. They penalize it. Let's go deeper. When you post something truly different, something honest, messy, real, it often goes unnoticed. Why? Because the algorithm doesn't know what to do with unfamiliar patterns. It favors what worked last week, what's trending, what keeps people scrolling, what confirms existing beliefs. So the system trains you, if you want attention, don't be original, be recognizable. And over time, you start shaping your identity, your self-expression, to fit in with the feed. Not to express, but to survive. Not to reveal, but to conform, quietly. Identity as a uniform. In the past, people wore uniforms because they were told to. Now, we wear them by choice. Digital uniforms, aesthetic uniforms, ideological uniforms. You're a minimalist, so you wear neutrals. You're a rebel, so you dress grunge. You're spiritual, so you carry crystals. You're tech-savvy, so you use Notion and tweet in lowercase. It feels like freedom. It feels like style. It feels like you. But step back. Look at the group photo. Everyone looks the same. Why we choose to be predictable. There's a deeper layer here. We choose to be predictable because predictability feels safe. In a chaotic world, belonging is survival. And the fastest way to belong? Adopt the code. Speak the language. Signal the tribe. Match the vibe. And so we trade authenticity for acceptance. Individuality for inclusion. Not because we're weak, but because the system made standing out feel dangerous. What we lost in trying to be different. In the race to be different, we became identical in method. We signal instead of speak. We style instead of search. We align instead of ask. We curate instead of create. And we lost mystery, depth, contradiction, growth, the awkward phases of becoming. Because real individuality is not polished. It's confusing. It's lonely. It's full of mistakes. It's often invisible until it matures. and the world doesn't have time for that anymore. The myth of authentic expression. You think you're expressing yourself, but what if you're just expressing what you've been told expression should look like? You post a vulnerable story because vulnerability is trending. You show your mess, but frame it aesthetically. You speak your truth, but only if it fits your brand tone. You laugh, but only with the right emoji at the right moment in the right cadence. That's not expression. That's self-management. And over time, it hollows you out. Because performance is heavy, and pretending to be you is the heaviest role you'll ever play. Rediscovering real individuality. So how do you find your true voice? Not the marketed one, not the trendy one, not the viral one, but the messy, evolving, contradictory, deeply human one. You step away from the feed, from the aesthetic, from the pressure to define yourself in a sentence, from the illusion that you must always know who you are, and instead, you live. You let yourself not know. You let yourself change. You let yourself be wrong, be strange, be quiet, be unsure. Because individuality is not something you display, it's something you become through time, trial, and truth. And that process cannot be rushed. Conclusion. You were never supposed to be a brand. You were supposed to be a person. Not an aesthetic, not a slogan, not a relatable character. You were supposed to think weird thoughts, feel impossible contradictions, say things you regret, love what no one else understands, be complex. That's what real individuality looks like. And it can't be bought, built, branded, or swiped. Only lived. And the moment you stop trying to stand out, you just might find you already were.
When saying no is the real power. You've been told freedom is the ability to say yes. Yes to opportunity, yes to possibility, yes to experience, yes to more. But here's the hidden truth. The most powerful freedom isn't in saying yes. It's in having the clarity and courage to say no. We live in a culture of affirmation, where success means expansion, where power means participation, where saying no is often seen as fear, laziness, or limitation. But in reality, no is the most radical word you can say in a system designed to keep you always choosing, never questioning. Yes is easy. No is sovereign. Anyone can say yes. Yes is default. Yes is passive. Yes requires no awareness. But no? No demands awareness. It demands intention. It demands boundaries. It draws a line. And that's terrifying to a world that wants you borderless, limitless, endlessly open to persuasion. Because a person who says no is a person who can't be manipulated. What they fear most, a mind that resists. Corporations fear a customer who says, "I don't need more." The algorithm fears a user who says, "I've had enough." The system fears a citizen who says, "I won't play by these rules anymore," because these are the people who slow down the machine, who ask questions, who break patterns, who choose stillness over stimulation, silence over noise, meaning over motion. The power to say no is the power to reclaim authorship of your life. When you can say no to more, you say yes to meaning. Every no creates space. Every no is a gatekeeper for the yes that actually matters. When you say no to the toxic job, the performative friendship, the cheap dopamine, the endless comparison, the pressure to conform, the illusion of success, you say yes to your time, your values, your energy, your presence, your integrity, your peace. And yet few dare to say no, because it requires disappointing the world to stay loyal to yourself. Why no feels so dangerous? We fear saying no because we're taught to equate it with rejection, rebellion, rudeness, failure, weakness. But what if it's the opposite? What if saying no is a sign of maturity, of wisdom, of self-respect? Because to say no well, you must know who you are, what you value, what you're building, what you're no longer willing to tolerate. This is the kind of clarity the system cannot afford for you to have. So instead, it bombards you with, say yes to life. Why not try it? What if you're missing out? This opportunity won't come again. Fear disguised as inspiration. Urgency disguised as freedom. Persuasion disguised as empowerment. The menu is designed to prevent no. Ever notice how hard it is to opt out? Subscriptions bury the cancel button. Apps ask, "Why are you leaving?" Algorithms chase you with content you said no to. Systems punish withdrawal with shame, guilt, or exclusion. That's not design, that's manipulation. Because the illusion of choice collapses the moment you stop choosing altogether. When you say, "I reject the menu. None of these are for me. I choose stillness, not stimulation. I choose depth, not distraction," you become invisible to systems built on engagement. And in that invisibility, you find freedom. The courage to disappoint. Saying no often means disappointing people, letting go of roles, walking away from expectation, becoming misunderstood, losing applause. And yet, true alignment often begins where approval ends. Because when you stop performing, you start being. When you stop pleasing, you start living. When you stop chasing, you start leading. And the first step is one word: no. Examples of quiet power. The employee who turns down a promotion to preserve peace. The artist who walks away from fame to protect authenticity. The partner who ends a perfect relationship because it lacks truth. The parent who says no to overscheduling their child. The student who quits the path they were praised for. The creator who deletes their account to rediscover themselves. None of these people lost. They chose. And in choosing less, they found more. The discipline of saying no. Saying no isn't a one-time act. It's a discipline, a muscle, a daily declaration. I will not be moved by fear, noise, or urgency. I will not dilute my life with yeses I don't mean. I will not serve a system that profits from my confusion. I choose myself, even if that means choosing less. This kind of restraint is rare because it is quiet, unmarketed, and entirely yours. No as a design tool. Here's a radical idea. Don't build your life by choosing what to add. Build it by choosing what to subtract. Subtract the fake. Subtract the noise. Subtract the distractions. Subtract the obligations and the borrowed dreams. What remains? The real you. The clear path. The life that doesn't need to be constantly chosen because it's already aligned. Conclusion. The power to refuse is the power to be free. They told you freedom was about how many things you can say yes to. But real freedom is having nothing to prove, nothing to chase, and the strength to say, I'm good. I've chosen enough. That's not limitation. That's liberation. That's not scarcity. That's sovereignty. And that kind of freedom doesn't come from more. It comes from less, but on your terms. It comes from no. Reclaiming autonomy. How to design your own life. You've spent your life choosing. From menus, from feeds, from lists curated by others. But choosing isn't the same as creating. And freedom isn't about picking the best option someone else made. It's about standing up and saying, I will build my own. This part is not about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's not about escaping society, burning everything down, or living off-grid. It's about autonomy, the quiet, radical act of becoming the author of your life. Not the actor, not the brand, not the audience, but the writer, the architect, the designer. And it begins not with what you add, but what you reclaim. Step 1. Reclaim your awareness. You cannot escape a cage you don't see. So the first step is to pause and observe. What do you do on autopilot? Which of your routines weren't consciously chosen? What opinions are just echoes of the environment you grew up in? How much of your day is spent reacting, not initiating? This awareness is uncomfortable because it reveals how much of yourself is borrowed. But it's also empowering because it's the beginning of authorship. Once you see the script, you can start to rewrite it. Step 2. Define what matters without borrowing it. Ask yourself, what do I want if no one is watching? Strip away status. Strip away trends. Strip away validation. What's left? What kind of work brings me aliveness, not just money? What kind of people nourish me, not just like me? What kind of pace honors my health, not just my productivity? What kind of lifestyle aligns with my soul, not just my ambition? Don't fill your life with impressive answers. Fill it with true ones. Because living someone else's dream beautifully is still a nightmare. Step 3. Set boundaries like a builder. Once you know what matters, protect it fiercely. This is where many fail, because clarity without boundaries is just vulnerability. You must say no to meetings that don't serve your mission. No to social media that trains you to perform. No to opportunities that drag you away from alignment. No to urgency that's not yours. No to guilt for doing what makes sense to you. Designers don't leave the door open for chaos. They choose what comes in. You must do the same. Step 4. Build your life around energy, not ego. We're trained to build around appearance. What will look good? What will sound impressive? What will feel successful? But ego is fragile, and it's never satisfied. So build around energy instead. What leaves you energized, not just excited? What relationships fuel you? What kind of work drains you, even if it pays well? What kind of rest makes you whole, not just distracted? Energy doesn't lie, and designing around it leads to sustainability, not just stimulation. Step 5. Embrace the boring, slow, and real. Designing your life is not glamorous. It's not viral. It's not full of dopamine. It looks like unfollowing hundreds of people.
rebuilding your daily routine from scratch, saying no to 90% of what used to keep you busy, choosing long walks over endless tabs, reading books instead of reacting to tweets, having one hard conversation instead of 20 surface ones. It's slow, quiet, unseen, and that's why it works. Because you're not building for applause, you're building for freedom. Step 6. Detach from outcomes, anchor to alignment. You don't design your life to guarantee success. You do it to guarantee honesty. Success might come, or not. But when you're aligned, you stop chasing approval. You stop craving certainty. You stop trying to control every result. You shift from, will this work, to, is this true for me? And that's the core of autonomy. Not power over the world, but peace with your direction, regardless of reward. Step 7. Let it evolve. You are not a fixed identity. Autonomy is not rigid. It breathes, it updates, it listens. So as you grow, allow your design to change. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to leave what no longer fits. It's okay to become someone new. That's not weakness. That's integrity in motion. Your life should feel like you, even as you continues to evolve. And anyone who demands consistency at the cost of truth was never really for you. Step 9. Stop choosing, start creating. This is the final shift. You've spent years selecting from menus you didn't write. Now you stop ordering. You go into the kitchen. You plant your own ingredients. You burn a few dishes. You taste, test, adjust. This is not convenience. This is craft. And craft is slow. But what you make, it's yours. It feeds you, and it cannot be sold, stolen, or replicated. Conclusion. Autonomy is not given, it's built. They gave you endless options, but never the tools to build your own. Now you have them. Awareness, boundaries, alignment, clarity, courage, stillness, integrity. So start building, quietly, deliberately, relentlessly. And when the world offers another shiny menu, smile and say, "No thank you, I brought my own." Your attention is the real currency. You think you're scrolling for free. You think your feed costs nothing. You think your attention is yours. It's not. Because in today's world, the most valuable commodity isn't money. It's not data. It's not even time. It's your attention. And you're giving it away. Every second, every tap, every scroll. Not by accident, by design. Because the modern system is not built to take your money. It's built to steal your focus and sell it to the highest bidder. You're not the customer, you're the product. Let's make this clear. If you're not paying for the service, you are the product. Every free platform you use, it makes money by harvesting your attention and selling it to advertisers. But it's not just the ads you see, it's the behavior you create. Every second you spend watching, scrolling, reacting, you're feeding the machine, teaching it how to predict you, how to manipulate you, how to monetize you. You're not browsing, you're being studied and then sold. The economy of distraction. Think about it. The longer you stay on the platform, the more ads you see. The more you engage, the more data they collect. The more predictable you become, the more advertisers will pay to reach you. So what's the real goal of modern tech? To trap your attention. Not for 5 minutes, not for an hour, forever. That's why every app fights for your screen time. That's why they use infinite scroll, autoplay, notifications, emotional headlines, personalized feeds, endless stimulation. Because your focus is money on the table, and if they don't capture it, someone else will. They don't care what you consume. They care that you keep consuming. You can be inspired, outraged, confused. It doesn't matter. You can believe anything, support any side. They don't care. You can scroll until 3 a.m. questioning your sanity. They'll reward that. Why? Because the algorithm is not designed to serve you. It's designed to retain you. And the best way to keep you is to trigger you, excite you, frighten you, feed you just enough chaos to keep you dependent. You think you're choosing, you're just looping. The high cost of cheap attention. Here's the illusion. It's just a few minutes. It's just background noise. It's just one more video. But in reality, you've traded presence for stimulation, depth for distraction, peace for noise, focus for novelty, agency for autopilot. Your attention is your gateway to everything. Where it goes, your energy, emotions, relationships, and time follow. And when you give it away mindlessly, you lose your ability to live mindfully. That's not harmless. That's spiritual theft. The most profitable addiction in history. Let's be blunt. Modern tech companies have created the most addictive product in human history. More than sugar, more than nicotine, more than alcohol. Because it doesn't just live in your body, it lives in your mind. And they don't need to convince you to come back. They've wired your brain to crave it. Every like, every ding, every red bubble, every autoplay video. It's not entertainment, it's conditioning. You're not using the system is using you. Who controls your focus controls your future. Your future is not built by your goals, it's built by your focus. Because what you focus on expands. Focus on outrage, you live angry. Focus on comparison, you live insecure. Focus on noise, you lose direction. Focus on fear, you stay small. So ask yourself, who decides what captures your focus each day? Is it you or the algorithm? Your soul or the system? Your inner voice or a curated feed of profitable distractions? Because if you don't decide, they already have. The myth of just one more. Every platform is built on one psychological hook, intermittent reward. You never know which video will hit, which post will pop, which scroll will reward. That uncertainty is what keeps you hooked. It's the same system used in slot machines, and now it's in your pocket, calling you, calibrating you, owning you. And just like that, your attention, your greatest creative power, becomes someone else's profit. You're paying with your life. You don't pay with dollars, you pay with moments. With mornings, you could have created something. With afternoons, you could have connected. With evenings, you could have rested. With time, you'll never get back. This is the tax of unconscious attention, a life half lived. Not because you didn't try, but because you were too busy watching others live theirs. Reclaiming your attention is a revolutionary act. So what can you do? You reclaim your attention deliberately. Turn off notifications. Delete apps designed to manipulate you. Schedule time without screens. Protect your first and last hour of the day. Practice deep work. Choose boredom over numbing. Get comfortable being unproductive for real. It's not about perfection. It's about power. Because every time you choose where your attention goes, you take your life back. Conclusion. Focus is the new freedom. They've sold you endless options, but kept the one thing that truly matters: your ability to pay attention to what matters. And in a world desperate to steal that from you, every moment of clear focus is an act of rebellion. Because once you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your mind, your time, your values, your energy, your future. You become unprofitable to the system, but priceless to yourself. And that's the kind of wealth no one can take.
Wake up. Stop choosing. Start questioning. You've spent your life choosing. Choosing what to wear, what to eat, what to scroll, what to say, what to show, what to buy, what to become. And you believed for a while that this was freedom. But now, something inside you stirs, a quiet discomfort, a subtle whisper that asks, wait, who gave me these choices? Why are these the only options? And what if I want something else? That whisper is not rebellion, it's awakening. Because the real battle of our age is not between left and right, not between rich and poor, not between consumer and brand. It's between the awake and the comfortably asleep. The illusion is beautiful until you look closely. They gave you more choices than any generation before you. More shows, more jobs, more styles, more relationships, more philosophies, more products, more ways to express yourself. And yet, you feel more lost, more exhausted, more unsure, more fragmented, more anxious, more disconnected. Because the illusion of choice is not nourishment, it's entertainment dressed as freedom. You've been flipping through pages of a menu that never changes the kitchen. It doesn't matter if you picked vanilla, strawberry, or caramel. It's still sugar, still processed, still owned by someone else. Choice isn't the problem. Submission is. Let's be clear. Choice itself isn't evil. Autonomy is real. Agency is beautiful. The problem is when your choices are pre-selected, pre-conditioned, and pre-approved, and you don't even notice. That's not freedom. That's submission. That's you mistaking variety for liberation. That's you coloring inside someone else's lines and calling it art. You don't need to choose more. You need to ask better questions. Instead of, which brand should I buy? Ask, why do I need this at all? Instead of, which career path will impress people more? Ask, what kind of life do I actually want? Instead of, which lifestyle trend should I follow? Ask, what values am I honoring? Instead of, how can I go viral? Ask, why do I need to be seen in order to exist? These questions break the loop. They slow the machine. They wake up the part of you that remembers what it feels like to choose from within. Your soul isn't confused. It's just been drowned. You think you don't know what you want, but that's not true. You've just spent too long listening to voices that don't belong to you. Voices telling you what matters, what success means, what beauty looks like, what happiness feels like, what the right life should be. And your soul, it went quiet. Not because it gave up, but because it was never given the mic. So give it back. Turn down the noise. Sit with the discomfort of not having a ready-made answer, and ask the most radical question of all. What do I really want if no one is watching, judging, or measuring me? The menu was never yours. You were born into a world with a list of what to do, what to chase, what to buy, who to be. It was handed to you by systems that benefit when you follow, by industries that profit when you choose, but never too far outside the frame, by cultures that reward sameness while marketing it as individuality. And for years you played along, not because you were weak, but because the illusion was beautiful, comfortable, colorful, well-designed. But now you see it. You see that even rebellion can be sold back to you, that even authenticity can be packaged, that even freedom can be prison if it was never yours to define. Freedom is not on the menu. You won't find it in a product, or a trend, or a perfectly worded tweet, or a well-curated lifestyle. Freedom is not handed to you, it's taken back. One silent moment at a time. One uncomfortable no at a time. One brave act of questioning at a time. Freedom is not something you get once and for all. It's something you must protect, daily, deliberately, quietly. And the greatest act of freedom? To walk away from the menu entirely and write your own. This is your wake-up call. You were not born to choose endlessly. You were born to create intentionally. You were not born to optimize a life given to you. You were born to design one on your terms. You were not born to become a brand. You were born to be a human, messy, inconsistent, real, evolving, alive. You were not born to perform. You were born to become. So let this be the moment you stop asking, which is the best option? And start asking, who wrote the list? Because that question, more than any answer, is where freedom truly begins.